I think we're about ready to get going with kind of the formal presentation. Okay. And keep this in mind, we are going to encourage people to come up and share their thoughts, and appreciate the attendance here. It's just a fantastic tribute to Jim that we have such a wonderful gathering here under this roof. And I want to thank everyone for showing up. Especially want to thank Brother Bob, who was instrumental in organizing all this. And Sister Beth, who did great work in support of Bob, and all the siblings who have pitched in on this. And especially want to thank Amelia and Jim and Leon, who have just been fantastic. They were wonderful friends to Jim, and I'm sorry, I'm the world's worst crier, so bear with me, please.
It's all right.
And they've been incredible during this whole adventure for Jim, and then since then, their support for the family has been extraordinary, so we sure thank you so much for coming. Now, the idea here is to be as informal as we can be, to have a good time. You know, those of you who knew Jim well knew that one of the things that annoyed him the most was if somebody would do him a favor without asking for it. And he did not ask us to be sad and solemn about this. So I think we can celebrate him as in an ideal manner if we really have an upbeat discussion of what Jim meant to all of us, and so I hope that we can truly celebrate today, and that's the goal. And,
Here.
Thank you. And we'll be, you know, trying to stay as informal as we can be here. Encourage everyone to come up. We'll try and have comments here initially, and then we'll get to the music that meant so much to Jim. What we will suggest, though, is later on between the musical numbers, after the music is over, if anyone wants to come up at that point, don't hesitate, please. Keep it informal. If you think of something reacting to what's going on or what is said, don't hesitate to come up. And again, what a tribute to Jim that we have such a wonderful gathering here. A couple of bookkeeping notes. Keep in mind there is a sign-in book on the table back there. If you didn't sign in, we'd love if you did for us. As I think most of you do know, but a reminder that the food and the coffee and the desserts and so forth are gratis. The drinks you're being billed for, so I hope everyone's aware of that. And let's see. Yeah, as I said, you know, we hope to have people give commentary about Jim, anything they're comfortable raising. And I had a few thoughts to kind of get the ball rolling. And, you know, Jim was one of 11 siblings, and he was the youngest. And it was tempting to think of him as kind of the baby of the family, but in spite of being the youngest out of 11, he always seemed impressively smart, worldly, intelligent. I always thought of him as being one of the most together of the people in the group. And I think the friends he has, the people you're going to see up here today, it really speaks to the circles he traveled and the people he related to, how comfortable he was with other people who were smart, who were creative. And an example of that, in the 4th grade, he had a good friend that he always talked about. They really had a kinship. They kind of shared their perspective on what it was like to be a 4th grader, what was going on in school. And that friend was a guy named Gabe Newell. And if you folks are into video games at all, you know who Gabe Newell is. He started the Steam online gaming system. And I looked up today, he is currently worth $9.5 billion. And that's the kind of person that Jim was attracted to, that he felt comfortable with, he shared perspectives with. And you'll see intelligence and creativity among the people that you're mingling with today, which I think is another tribute to Jim. The other thing is, family was really important, friends were really important to him. An example of he always went out of his way to be in touch with his siblings. He had a personal relationship with most of his nieces and nephews that he really cultivated. And that went right up to this year's Indy 500. I go every year, my kids usually go with me. And this year, Jim, who was undergoing chemotherapy and was really struggling at that point, but he wanted to be out there. And it's a 650-mile drive, and he was really under the gun at work, but he made that drive, he got out there, and his reward for that was to have a weekend from hell. The first thing that happened when he showed up at 2 in the morning was, "We don't have your reservation." He got 2 hours of sleep that night because he had to go to another hotel, find a room. He had to move during the weekend back into the other hotel. The race day itself, we were out from the hotel for 15 hours. And here's Jim struggling with the effects of chemotherapy, with his spreading cancer. And his reaction to his weekend was how happy he was that he came, and how much he enjoyed seeing his niece and nephew and to see me. And I think that's an example of how important family and friends were to Jim. So that's the thoughts that I have, and I would encourage anyone who wants to come on up. And if there aren't other thoughts at this point, we can get into music, but I'd love to hear some other comments from other folks.
Okay.
One of the things we thought would be really special. I'm Bob, Jim's brother.
Yay!
And you all feel free to clap for me if you do. And one of the things we thought would be really special would be for some people to come and actually do covers of songs that Jim wrote. And we're going to begin with a nice fun one. And this is Linda Hastings, who's going to do Babies.
Running around again. Let me. Okay.
Which, by the way, is on the CD or the music that you will get.
And I need my roadie. That looks good.
Don't be afraid.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, hi everybody. So I'm not one of the siblings, and you might ask, why is she here? Well, back in the 80s, at the Office of Prevention, we hired Jim to work for us to help implement a federal demonstration project called DCASA, Delaware Community Cluster Against Substance Abuse. And so I supervised Jim. He did a great job doing things he really didn't like doing, especially, including having to travel down the state and meet with mayors and city managers and community groups. And he was kind of like shy. It was like painful for him to sometimes have to do that, and he went and did it anyway. And then he wrote us great federal reports to convince the feds we were doing exactly what we promised we were going to do for those $5 million. Anyway, so and then later on, Jim moved on, and he went and did some other work for a while. We sort of, lost track over the years, but we got back together again because our very dear boss, Henry Wood, had a stroke. And Henry didn't have any family really, and he ended up in a nursing home. And so Jim and my friend Lori Tudor, who's back there, we all worked for the Office of Prevention, and we got together, figured out where he was, and we started visiting him once a month. And first we would have lunch together and then go visit, so it was like we had a wonderful day every time we would do it. And one of the times, we said, well, it would be great, because at this point, Jim was starting to talk about his music a little bit, and so he brought his guitar to one of the visits, and that's the first time I heard him sing the song about Carl that he had written. And so you will hear that a little bit later, but you should know, Jim said at that point that it had taken him 10 years to get the song finished. He'd been thinking about it and thinking about it, and he was finally ready to get it done. And so I got to hear that when we were sitting in a nursing home visit with Henry. And Henry really only liked classical music, so he didn't really appreciate it. But anyway, I loved the song, and so Jim taught me to play it, and sometime later. And then, so over the years, he would come here and play Catherine Rooney's sometimes with a band called World Peas. And so it was here that I heard him for the first time sing the song that I'm about to sing for you. I heard him sing it, I was like, I loved it. And afterwards I said to him, Jim, that song is great. He's like, oh, I don't know, it's not one of my favorites. And I'm like, oh no, that song's great. I said, if Kenny Rogers ever heard you sing this song, heard you sing this song, you'd be a rich man. This is a great song. So, can you help me pull my music up a little closer here? Because I do know the song. On the other hand, I'm not a professional. But sometimes you just need to have a cheat sheet, you know what I mean? Put the lights on it. There we go. Okay. And by the way, I learned to play guitar rather late in life. I learned at Osher Lifelong Learning. So I really only play cowboy chords. So unlike Jim, who would do a wonderful job on this, hey, and I'm a lifelong shower singer. Those are my credentials. Can you hear okay? Baby's running around again. She's out on the town again. She'll come back, but I don't know when. My baby's running round again. Well, I was drinking at the Come On In, getting friendly with a bottle of gin. And she walked through the door, and the wind blew a chill down my spine. I asked her, can I buy your next round? That's if no man is tying you down. She said, I belong to no one, but I can tell that you'll be all mine. Well, early on, everything was alright. We made passionate love every night. And I swore that I'd do anything just for the feel of her touch. So now I polish her boots, iron her blouse, wash all her undies and clean this damn house, and wait by the door. The girl that I hate to love so much, baby's running around again. She's out on the town again. She'll come back, but I don't know when. My baby's running round again. He taught me to do that. Well, I tell her, I caught her in the choir loft with the preacher's son. She just laughed and said, I know I'm gonna burn. Come home with me, I begged her. She said, not till I'm done. But if you want some loving, baby, just wait your turn. I used to go hunting her down, searching high and low all around town, till I figured out it's probably not very smart. I quit looking when I had my fill, 'cause when I found her, it got uglier still. say, why you come looking? What you don't know cannot break your heart. He'd be playing something beautiful here. Tell her that I love her, want her all to myself. She says, whoa boy, give me some. Whoa boy, give me some space. It don't mean I don't love you if I'm with someone else. I just get so tired of seeing that same old face. So I'm sit here with dinner that's gone cold, try to figure how she got such a hold. Wishing I was strong enough to get up and walk out that door. But instead I'll just pour another drink. This is not love, I'm beginning to think. I gotta admit, hell, I don't even like her that much. Although there's parts of her I just adore. Baby's running around again. She's out on the town again. She'll come back, but I don't know when. My baby's running round all over town. My baby's running round again. You know, and when I heard Jim play this, there had been some space between when I knew him when we were working in this. So I said to him, Jim, is that autobiographical? And he said, no, but I did have some inspiration.
Nice.
Oh, that was
Good job.
wonderful.
Very good.
Up next.
Tough to follow that. I'm sorry, I guess we make it a chance for people to speak
Oh, sure.
in between songs and then we'll. All right. Hey, Jim.
I do radio, and I feel like I've just been forced to follow Gene Shepard. But I'll do my best. I knew Jim for almost 50 years. And I met him and Tom at the same time at the 1977 July Comic Book Convention. I don't know if Jim said one word. I remember him standing in the back, and there was Jim and Val and other people in the front, and Jim just sort of being there. But as the years went by, Mercy and I, my better half, got to know Jim better and better. And at first he would come up to New York City to go to a comic book convention. And then because there always had to be an excuse at first, right? A lot of friendships are like that. And then some other event in New York City, and he'd come up for that. And eventually he just came up to visit. And sometimes we'd go down to visit him. He was a member of Interlac, an amateur press alliance for Legion of Superheroes fans.
Yay!
And he would write his zines. And at one point he was really writing depressing stuff. I mean, he was really depressed. And then he dropped out of the act. And he dropped out of contact. And Mercy and I got worried. So we did the wrong thing. We went to visit him without telling him. And as most of you know, he didn't like surprises. And so we weren't supposed to have done that. But we were worried about him because we loved him, right? You know, you're depressed. What are we supposed to think when you disappear? One of the things that I liked best about Jim was his wit. One of the funniest people I have ever known in my life, and I've known hundreds of people. And he would just stream of consciousness, you know, wit, and we would start laughing. And the more we'd laugh, the funnier he got, until it came to the point of just, sheer madness. And there was a couple of times he go, "You make me feel so funny." And now Ron Coyne, who's sitting over there against the wall, he's like that too. And when Jim and Ron would get together and do that stream of consciousness thing and build upon each other and build upon each other, I would be in tears. Mercy would be in tears. They just had this way about each other that was absolutely tremendous. And another thing about Jim that I suppose a lot of you know, but a lot of you are family, so maybe you don't know. We would have these parties. The reason I'm wearing this shirt is because we would have these parties to commemorate the end of the Paleozoic era from 240 million years ago. And Jim would come up to most of those parties. And at some point, there would be a group of women somewhere discussing Jim. And it was really interesting because every year they would be doing this. And they might talk about Jim and somebody else and decide who they preferred. But it was amazing to hear this. And of course, the first time I did, I'm like, oh, women do that too. And it was just amazing to hear them. And there's one time we were visiting him. And he started being very uncomfortable, and he's like trying to say something he couldn't say, and finally he's like, "There's this TV show. I know we're having a wonderful time hanging out, but there's this TV show that I really like, and I tape it." This is VHS days, so this was, several hundred years ago. And he's like, "So you really want to, tape the show and watch the show?" And we're like, "Okay, what show is it?" He goes, "Whose Line Is It Anyway?" And Mercy like, "That's one of our favorite shows too." So we watched it together. And TV at a party tends to kind of mess up the socializing. This time it enhanced it. And then in 2001, in May, our friend Rich Morrissey passed away. And we were really broken up by it. And Jim calls us up and said, when my mom died, watching Whose Line Is It Anyway really helped me get through her death. So you should try that to help you get through Rich. So we did, and it worked. Because it uses just enough of your brain to distract you, but not so much that you just can't get into it. And it's funny, so there's endorphins for that. And so ever since then, when somebody in our life dies, we'll watch Whose Line? Except for Jim. Because of our connection with that show and him, we couldn't use Whose Line Is It Anyway to help us get through Jim's death. And might be part of one of the many reasons why we haven't gotten through it yet. Boy, I just brought down the whole group, didn't I? And of course, that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for, yeah, that's true. And Jim had a cable access TV show here in Wilmington. And I was a guest on it once. He had me standing in front of the Brandywine River near that little tiny waterfall of about, 3 inches, and talking about energy issues. About a year or two, maybe 3 years later, after that show, this guy in Washington Park in Greenwich Village in New York City recognized me from Jim's show. Which I thought was really cool. And so my next intellection is going to have 2 pages on Jim, and I brought 5 copies of it to give to a few people. And I can email any of you who want a copy of that. But anyway, it's great to see everybody, great to meet everybody, get to be acquainted with some of you, and yay, Jim.
I'll try. Oh, the microphone's really hot. Mic check. Wires everywhere. Oh my god, tentacles.
This is a song by Melvina Reynolds. Jim was a very loving guy. He was wonderful in a lot of ways. His music, his drawings, he could draw. He did some great drawings. Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Oh, love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. It's just like a magic penny. Hold on tight and you won't have any, but lend it, spend it, and you'll have so many. They'll roll all over the floor. 'Cause love something if you give it away, give it away, please give it away. Oh, love is something, you give it away, you end up having more. So let's go dancing till the break of day, and if there's a piper, then we can pay. 'Cause love is something, if you give it away, you end up having more. Sleep well, Jim.
Next song.
Yeah.
He's gonna do
Yeah, next is Jim Rezac. You're going to do Rose's Note.
Did you want Vic? We're saving that for last.
Jim and Carl songs last.
Bob, can you give me the first line again? No, really.
Do roses know they're beautiful? So lyrical.
I get the melody. No, I know the line, but I need the melody. That's what it should say.
Oh, is he asking?
Oh. I don't have that.
Can we do a tap dance while you get ready?
Give me a second. Sorry, guys.
Little soft shoe.
Thought I had the lyrics. You don't have the lyrics.
I don't know that one.
The other words.
Hold on a second. Sorry.
I have it on my phone, but it's been used.
I know what you're thinking, Kelly. Those damn Rezacs. What am I saying, I would have been rude. Hey, Bob.
I'm sorry, guys.
You did the chorus, baby, and you were wonderful. Are we going to do it with Jim?
Oh, yes.
Yes. So shall we discuss what? Oh, don't let me do it.
So this is a song, Raise a Glass, that Jim wrote. Bob turned me on to it actually a while ago. And when he asked Vicki and I to play it for this, that was quite the honor. So without further ado.
We are going to we're going to actually accompany Jim himself singing it, and we are going to sing along with him, because when we went to Jimmy's studio, we started to do that, and we just looked at each other and said, this is really cool, we feel like he's here with us. So you're going to hear the author, or the composer, and the singer, and the great guy, Jim Bierbaum.
Baby's running around again.
Wrong song, her song.
And it was a great song.
It was a great song. And you did a great job. Wonderful.
I was inspired by Jim.
Oh, how much fun. What a surprise. Here we go.
You were the first one to me. We raced to the school bus, we climbed up the trees. Grew up to learn the world is a cold and hard place. Good friends can pick you back up and put a smile on your face. We could bear all the troubles, right that we must, with our stainless steel roof of good chums that we trust. If we faced them together, what should we care? But we never concede the day when we would be there. And the struggles of life will fall to the test. Well, they didn't always win, but you gave it your best. No, what a sad day when we laid you to rest. But you came to the brother and friend we all truly were there. since you're gone, there's nothing seems quite the same. They're not the same songs, they're not the same games, but we sing and we play them, try to be a good cheer. Well, tonight there's not one among us doesn't wish you were here. And it's not that we think you were a saint or perfect somehow. You were just one of us, and you're gone from us now. We remember the good times, we remember the bad. We remember all of the times we ever had. So let's forget our sorrows until tomorrow, for tomorrow I'm just the same. And we'll raise glass to you, so happy New Year tonight. We remember your name. Oh, tonight we remember your name. We all had some troubles, but you had one son, and you marched to the beat of a different drum. Some days loud, some days kind, no matter your troubles, you always held your head high. Then when the struggles are right, cause you're home to death, when you're young, left again. No, what a sad day to make you rest, as a count to his brother, my friend, we all truly were there. So let's forget our sorrows until tomorrow, for tomorrow will come just the same. And let's so happy New Year tonight, we remember your name. Yes, let's forget our sorrows until tomorrow, for tomorrow will come just the same. And we'll raise glass to you, so happy New Year tonight, we remember your name. Yes, tonight we remember your name. Oh, tonight we remember your name. Dear and Jim, we remember your name. Babies running around.
We just were touched to play with him. We were better at practice. We were crying. We were crying at practice.
Wonderful.
You want to take a speaking break before the next one?
Well, yeah, if there's anyone else who wishes to speak, it'll be fine. If not, we'll play some more music.
Get my guitar out of the way.
Let me hear you say yeah.
Wait a second. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, as long as the green light is.
Turn up the
Hello. Hi. I'm Talbot. I'm a New York Jew. And so I'm one of the comic book people from Interlac. And I joined Interlac kind of late in the game, like in the early 80s. And so you met Ken and Mercy already. They didn't tell you this, but evidently, so they're dedicated birders, and I guess Beth and her husband Bob are dedicated birders too. And you know that one of the things that's a big thrill for birders is to go out and add birds to their life list. So they go out, they look for birds, they find a new one, click, add to their life list. So today, I'm not a birder, which is my loss, but today I've got to add a whole bunch of Bierbaums to my Bierbaum life list. So thank you for that. And so when I joined Interlac, like I said, back in 82, 83, around that time, it is what's called an amateur press association, and those actually go back to the 19th century, evidently. And one of the first people to get involved in amateur press associations was H.P. Lovecraft. Did you know that? So what amateur press associations are, it's a group of people who they publish, say, their essays or whatever they have together. And the way they do this is, so they have a membership, and the membership, they will send their contributions in to a central person who collates them all together and then sends copies back out to the members. Very simple, effective. So long before the internet, this is how we communicated with each other. And so comic book fans from around the world would get to join this Interlac organization, which was specifically for fans of this Legion of Superheroes comics. So you may remember, if you don't remember the Legion of Superheroes exactly, you probably remember Superman and Batman. So that company, DC Comics, published other comic books too, including the Legion of Superheroes. So I heard about this organization, Interlac, from Ken, and that's another story there. He plopped down beside me on a park bench. But anyway, so I joined Interlac. I didn't even know that it was what I was looking for, but it was. And of course, so you look down the roster of Interlac, and there, right near the top, is like a plethora of Bierbaums. And I have to tell you, so you're reading down this roster, and if you're not prepared for it, you get to the Bierbaum section, you're gonna have to take a breath in the middle before you continue. So of course, there's Tom and Mary, and then there was the two names together, Carl and Jim. So at the time, I guess because Jim was in college, they were sharing a membership. So anyway, there was a big comic book convention. It was an annual thing in New York City, usually around July 4th weekend, put on by a guy named Phil Suley. He'd been doing it for years. And we didn't know it at the time, but the very last one was in 1983. So I had only been a member of Interlac for a short time. So I showed up, and some people remember that I showed up in a brocaded Moroccan robe with my hair in cornrow braids with beads. And so that was how, and everybody came to this. So that was how I met like Tom and Mary. And I don't even know if Jim was there at that point. So do people remember if Jim came? So I don't remember exactly when I met Jim. It was probably at that convention. But as Ken said, back then, Jim tended to be one of the quieter ones. So Jim and I didn't really connect at first. And the way that Jim and I, at least to me, the way we connected was, I was reading one, so the zine, that's what people write. So Jim would write his zines, and I was talking to his coworkers, Linda and Lori, and they were talking about what a great writer he was. And I think he got a lot of that from his time in Interlac, because I think a lot of people will tell you. So when he wasn't so active, his writing, he didn't write as much at first, and it was a little bit tentative. But as he got more active, he just blossomed as a writer. You could see it. So, but anyway, a lot of Ken was talking about his stream of consciousness, and so he would do that in his writing too. And one time, and this was how, again, this is to me how I connected with Jim. And this summer, when we heard about Jim's health troubles, and I mean, he'd had health troubles for a few years, his heart, and then the cancer, and so a bunch of us wanted to arrange to visit. It didn't happen. And there was a question that I wanted to ask him, a question going back many years. I never got to answer. But anyway, so what I, as I said, what connected me with Jim was I'm reading his zine. He says, "Oh, I just had lunch, a peanut butter sandwich and a bowl of cereal," and that was exactly my lunch at that time. So it was like my go-to lunch was Jim's go-to lunch, and then later on, and I was a vegetarian starting from like the early '80s. And Jim eventually became a vegetarian, but he was a vegetarian like me. He was what I would call a non-virtuous vegetarian. So it just, for whatever reason we came to vegetarianism, it wasn't because we were eating a lot of lettuce. Oh, I do like to eat lettuce. But in any case, Jim didn't let his vegetarianism get in the way of his life. is what I would say. We like to, as Ken said, Jim would visit New York City, and a lot of the fans would come and visit, and when we would have a fanish get-together, we always ended up, at least back then, in a place called the Peculiar Pub. And peculiar has a peculiar spelling. It's P-E-C-U-L-I-E-R. And I guess it still exists, although I thought it had gone out of business. But anyway,
Keeps moving.
What? It keeps moving, yes. Prohibition, So we would go to the Peculiar Pub, and with one of our other friends was a guy named Keating. And Keating and Jim, they actually were roommates for a while, right? Which I guess they didn't really get along so well as roommates, but they were great friends, and they were great drinkers. And so we would go to this Peculiar Pub. I could never keep up, so we would order beers. They had like beers from around the world. And so, they would, I would try to keep up. I would get through like 1.5. And they would keep going. So it was always a lot of fun. And a few years later, so at the time when I joined Interlac, I was single, and I was single, and I was single, and I was single, and eventually I wasn't. And my wife Jenny, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, she kind of adopted Jim. She felt very maternal towards Jim, or big sisterly, or whatever. And so one time, we tried to set Jim up with someone. So it was a woman named Natalie who belonged. So my wife used to belong to a comedy troupe, and Natalie belonged to they were kind of like rival comedy troupes. They would perform a lot of shows together. So we went down. And Ron will remember this because
Ron already does remember this.
So we went there. So there was another woman from Interlac who, again, another one who we've lost, Melanie Crawford Chadwick. She was a wonderful, high-spirited lady who worked in comic books eventually, and so she had this Halloween party, and she invited all these great, well-known artists to it. So it was really quite a happening, and she invited me too, so that was nice. And she invited Ron, she invited Jim. So we brought this woman, Natalie, down to this party somewhere, it was in South Jersey or something, right? Yeah. And so Natalie and Jim, they didn't really hit it off. But Natalie really liked Ron. So she... But anyway, Jim, as you know, was just a super talented guy, and you heard some of his songs, how great they were. So one time, and this is actually before the adventure with Natalie, and I know this was before, so this was, everyone remembers this as Mercy's 40th birthday. Except I know that it wasn't Mercy's 40th birthday. The reason I know this is because by the time Mercy hit 40, Jenny and I were an item. But the year before, Jenny and I were not going out yet. So this was before Jenny and I were going out. So anyway, Ken and Mercy were down in Baltimore, visiting Mercy's brother Hall. And so
Montgomery County.
What?
Montgomery County.
Montgomery County. So we arranged Arthur and Ron and me and Jim. So we were going to surprise Mercy for her birthday. And so, did we get together at Jim's? Which place did we get together?
We got together at
Was it Arthur's?
You went to Arthur's place
I
in
went
New
to-
Jersey.
yes.
Then you picked up Ron in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Then you went to Jim in Wilmington.
Okay. So eventually we ended up with Jim. So Jim actually repurposed one of his songs, and I wish I knew which one it was. It was a good song, and so he
It literally was Mercy.
but he changed it into that. Yes, Happy Birthday. He changed the lyrics. So so now, if you're a fan of the Legion of Superheroes, so we call our band, the four of us, Jimmy and the Shooters.
With the umlaut over the first O.
What?
With the umlaut over the first O. Yes.
So anyway, so the joke there, so Jim Shooter was one of the famous authors of the Legion of Superheroes. So anyway, so we wound up stalking around outside Hall's house. I don't know, we tapped on the window or what we did. But then we burst in and we sang the song to Mercy, and it was Jim was leading us. And that was the way I love to remember Jim, because he was just at the height of his wonderfulness. So.
I love that. Get my stuff out of the way here.
Okay, this next song was not written by Jim. It was written by something of a poetic superhero, perhaps, Alfred Lord Tennyson. And this poem was turned into a song, and it's not exactly spiritual, but it is transcendental, and it seems kind of like appropriate for today. So,
And I've never played it or even heard it.
yeah. Jim has never played this song or heard it and doesn't know it. But he's going to be doing harmony.
So you're in for a good time.
Yeah. So are you good with this? Can you see that? Okay. Sunset and evening star, and one clear fall for me. May there be no morning of the bar, and I put out to sea. Good job so far. When I put out to sea, when I put out to sea, may there be no morning of the bar, and I put out to sea. Mercy's got the lyrics, so you can sing along with her, or you can just hum. Twilight and evening fell, and after that the dark. May there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. Thank you very much. That's the end of the live music.
Thank you. Thanks, that was fun. They all say, yeah, we can tell.
Yeah, that was wonderful. How about another hand for all the people who performed here today? Just fantastic. I wanted to add a public service announcement. One of the things I forgot to mention about Jim in my initial comments was that he did have a lot of issues with depression and anxiety, and he was open about it, and he helped everyone understand what he was going through. And he understood how important it is to destigmatize mental illness. We have more than our share of it in our family. And Jim understood this, and I just urge everyone to learn from that example and really be open about all our adventures, everything we're going through in life, and be accepting of everyone else's issues along those lines. And other than that, I wanted to make a few more housekeeping notes. There's a link to Jim's music. If anyone needs that link, please make sure we know and have your email address, and we'll be happy to send you that link. There's also CDs, as most of you know, of Jim's music, so feel free to take those with you. We have copies of his obituary in the back, again, hoping everyone is signed in. And I think that's what I have at this point. And if there's anyone else who has any comments, please don't hesitate to step forward. YouTube. Oh, indeed, we have been recording the event on QuickTime. Is that the? Yeah. And we're going to attempt to post this ceremony on YouTube. And I'm going to try to put it on the site. I think the name I gave it was Tom Bierbaum 247. But I'm sure if you do a search on YouTube, it will turn up in some form. So keep that in mind if you see a replay of this fantastic event. And again, so appreciative of everyone who attended, everyone who participated. And again, if there's nothing else, I will wrap up and enjoy the food, enjoy the company, and thanks so much for being here.
Okay.
What do you want to call it? June.
And thanks to Bob for organizing it.
Thanks so much for watching.
I'm going to interrupt my brother. My name's Ed Breezak, and I'm actually crashing this party. I live in the area, and I was driving by and saw Jim's vehicle parked out front. So the son of a gun didn't tell me he was playing at one of my favorite watering holes, so came in, and he was setting up. I saw Vicky, and I turned around and saw one of my favorite classmates from high school, Beth. I know the Bierbaums. One of the bigger families in Dover. I come from a very small family. There were only 7 of us. I love it. But